Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to Fide Master series after 77 episodes. In 78th one, I finally got myself a chance to fight for the title. With a win in this very game, I would be crossing on the live rating list 2300 rating mark, allowing myself to get to be eligible for the Fide Master title. Who am I playing against? Let's see. Well, black pieces against the Grandmaster, 2570. I mean, if I had any time to prove that I am worthy of a Fide Master title, I guess it would be this game, right? Because I am getting a opponent as good as it gets. Not that many chances in my life that I had an opportunity to play such a guy. So tough challenge, but I was up for it, and yeah, let's see how it went. It started with knight f3, which already was kind of a surprise. So if you remember the Polish First League, I got surprised during nearly early game on the move number 1. During this tournament, Cracovia Chess Festival, I was fine, and I was the one surprising my opponents on move number 1 or 16, depending on the circumstances. In here, my luck has ended. Knight f3 it is. After knight f3 against it, I've played several different options, and I thought that maybe with the Grandmaster level preparation, my opponent found something exactly that he wanted to play against, and he did not go for anything usual as of his. I was expecting all the other moves but this one. But here we are, I had to deal with that. I played knight f6 and after c4 e6 and b3. So I was not sure, is it the indication of very deep and aggressive prep against me, or is it the indication of not having enough time or willingness to prepare anything? So knight f3 b3 scheme it is. I was not sure about it during the game, but nevertheless against the Grandmaster it's not easy to play anything basically. Also thinking that it was the morning round of the New Year's Eve, I would imagine that indeed the reason for that setup is that my opponent did not prepare and not like prepare for hours, right? So yeah, still I wanted to try something different. So I've played c5 that you actually might have seen already, but after bishop b2, knight c6, g5, I went for the d5 move as in the one of the games from the Kielce Chess Open, but at this point after takes bishop g2, during the analysis of that round, of that game, I knew I spotted that d4 move, which I then considered during the game, was indeed playable and objectively speaking, the best for black, the best attempt. So I have decided, okay, let's do it because I did not want to allow, let's say after bishop e7, d4 move going into the isolated pawn structure, because even though I'm comfortable with it with nearly all the players, Grandmaster of nearly 2600 rating point level was not one of those guys, you know, so I wanted to avoid that. So yeah, d4 it is. What's good thing about it? The good thing about it is that I knew it's objectively the best and I knew it's playable, and I did not allow the isolated pawn structure. What's bad about it? I didn't know what to do later on. So it's kind of unfortunate to play a system in which you don't know what to do against the Grandmaster, but hey, he knows so much that I guess any variation he chooses, he will be the one with more knowledge. So I took the aggressive approach. Also, you know, I was fighting for the titles I wanted to win, right? So the more complex game, the better for me. So yeah, castle it is, bishop e7, usual stuff, e3, trying to undermine my pawn, but I don't react, I castle myself. Knight a3, looking at the c4 square, jumping there because with the pawn push I weakened the square. Bishop g4, pinning the knight, and those knights oftentimes connect on e5 square, so I wanted to pin that one, but after a3 already I had a decision to make. So not only before bishop g4 I was thinking, okay, is the inclusion of a3 okay for me or for the opponent? I did not decide for 100%, but I felt okay, it might be alright, but still at this point I have all the moves possible basically. Bishop h5, keeping the pin, bishop f5 trying to hit, I don't know yet where and what for, but you know, it looks okay. Bishop e6, maybe having an eye on this square. So all the squares, plenty of differences, but not that easy to navigate and evaluate which is best. I chose bishop f5, which, as the game will show, might not have been the best. Presumably, bishop h5 was still the way to go, because if ever g4 happens, I was a little bit stressed out about this pawn being pushed, but I was just afraid of ghosts. It means nothing, the pawn weakens the king, it will not ever go further, so I got the bishop anyway on this diagonal, right? So it would be somewhat helpful, because without it, when I had the bishop on f5, after knight c4, I developed the rook to the semi-open file, which was okay. And knight f to e5 is incoming without, you know, having to worry about this spin, and that's the problem. My bishop, let's say, movement to both g4 and f5 did not work. My opponent, before he jumped to e5, because, bishop f5 was played with the idea in mind of bishop e4. So if not pinning the knight here, I wanted to pin the knight there to the light squared bishop because I wanted to exchange it. I don't know how my opponent tricked me into not doing that, but he chose ed4. I obviously take back with the pawn, and with this exchange I was happy because it gives the c5 square for my bishop to go to, and after rook e1, that's exactly what I did. I've played here, but now knight f to e5, and I was like, what's going on? Why are those grandmasters so good? You know, I'm playing a good strategical game, but with each move, it's not like I feel surprised because I expect everything, but yet still I am let down in a sense that I am thinking that I am worse and worse. And why? How? I don't know. So yeah, after rook e1, perhaps it was the very last time for me to try out this bishop e4 idea, and only afterwards go for the bishop c5 solidifying move, because bishop c5 could have waited, you know. It's like I am hit there twice, I protect twice too, and my worries about the queen being overloaded mean nothing if I play bishop e4, because then I disrupt this connection. So yeah, there are no overloads, no distractions, no motives, I am fine. So this should be the way to move. And once I played bishop c5, the game kind of started getting away of my hands, even though it seems unnatural to say it at such an early stage of the game, with objectively even not such a big problem. Practically, yeah, it was tough. So I told you guys about d4 move on the move number 7, that it's objectively the best. Practically, there are some difficulties, and I just couldn't deal with them. After knight f to e5, which, as I've said, happened, I already don't have easy choices because I am pressured on both c6 and b7 squares. Once I move the knight, my pawn might be lost. Once I don't move it, my knight be exchanged, and then the c6 weakness will be there forever. Anyway, this is what I've decided. I wanted to get back the bishop to e6. As you can tell, pretty unsuccessful mission. 3 squares to choose from, neither one was that helpful. Knight c6, bc6, knight e5. So yet another knight jumping there. I mean, how many are there, right? And already in here it's not that easy for me to play out the game, because obviously the pawn is hanging. The bishop might be hanging very shortly, with then the pawn also being attacked. So yeah, not that easy to play. I played queen d6, obviously protecting both pieces, and after rook c1 I played knight d7, trying to exchange the pieces, therefore release at least a little bit of the tension. The other way of playing might have been knight d5, but for me it was a little bit counterintuitive to close the d file, because what do you know, d4 pawn is also not that great. And also I was worried in a sense that I am not exchanging anything, and this knight is protected now very much, but once the knight c6 combo might happen, it will be undermined or whatever. So I couldn't figure out the real reason why would I want to play there with the knight, other than, you know, lowering down the pressure towards the c6 pawn. And if so, I wanted to play knight d7 because it felt for me that it's a better idea to deal with the problem. My opponent though played queen e2. so not wasting any tempos on exchanging the pieces, because if he would do that, then I would happily take back with the bishop. So 1, 2, 3, 4 moves with the bishop, but at least in here it has some exact and concrete stuff to do, which is to protect the pawn. Not the ideal scenario, but it is what it is. But yeah, my opponent played queen e2, and I believe at this moment I did not live to the expectations, meaning that I was kind of working on my chess and on the fact that I need to be more patient with my decisions. I should be willing and should be able to deal with the pressures for a longer period of time, not going for simplifications or calculations too early. But I took on e5. I took on e5, went to an endgame, because if you remember from the Polish First League analysis, whenever I have strategical problems, I tend to try to resolve them with tactics, with calculations, and this is what I did. In here, I am not losing yet. I am not like losing the pawn, I'm just under some pressure. It's not even like that crystallized what's exactly on my opponent's mind. So I should have gone perhaps with simply rook f to d8, bringing the piece into any kind of play. Just simply play out some moves. Let opponent think how is he willing and going to break through you. Because after the exchange, I calculated that after takes, bishop b6, my desire, the biggest of all, would be to play c5 at any given point in this game, because then yes, my bishop transforms into a pawn, but at least I am not allowing this bishop to be so great. Still, the issues would not be resolved, but at least this was my thinking. And the point is that after bishop takes c6, which may happen, and it did happen, I just take on h3. So finally, you know, me making this h3 move, forcing it, made sense after like 15 more moves, right? What's the problem? The problem is that, unfortunately, I am talking all the time about resolving the strategical issues with tactics, but I did not resolve them in here, and I usually don't do it. I just simply delay them. So not only do I only delay problems, but also I might create some more if my calculations are wrong. And in here, indeed, my calculations were wrong, because maybe once I'm blabbing and talking, you actually figured out already that with this bishop being here, this rook specifically has less squares to go to. And after bishop a3, rook f to d8, bishop e7, I mean, it has nowhere to go, right? And funnily enough, this is something I've calculated, and I was proud that I found rook e8, because I'm hitting both bishops, and with the x-rays, let's say, you can say that I'm hitting both rooks, therefore he cannot take me on e8, and if not, then I am the one actually putting some pressure onto him. But I believe both him and I missed one very aesthetic move, let's say, rook e to e1. So basically everything now is protected well enough for me to lose the material, because my rook is stuck and nowhere to go, and so on, so on. So that's the idea, and this is what I've said, like I cannot be relying only on calculations, because it may happen like it. I will be losing the material and the game much faster than I would in the long fight in the middle game, right? Anyway, thankfully, my opponent did not play it, perhaps because this rook e to e1 move is not as easy as it looks like. Rook c4 was played, having an eye on yet another weakness of mine that I showed you guys about from the beginning, but in here I knew from the distance that I will be playing bishop e6, hitting the rook, going back with the bishop, and if I will be able to somehow coordinate myself in a way that I will play rook c7, rook f to c8, I will be having enough of the defense about the pawns and and 7th rank overall. I might be getting myself some counterplay. Maybe even this pawn will survive, and even if not, you know, it might be some idea, some chance for a draw anyway. So the only move for the opponent is bishop d5, and here I knew from the distance that I will have the critical moment and the decision to make, because I can either take the bishop or take the rook, or avoid all of that and play some other move of either bishop d7 avoiding the bishop straight, or rook c to d8 avoiding the rook straight. It all resolves around the topic of how do I want to give my material away, and in which type of endgame my drawing chances will be the highest. This is more or less the question, because the fact that I am losing d4 pawn, it's like you cannot discuss it. It will happen sooner or later. So it's not about, trying to delay the loss of the pawn, it's trying to make the loss count, make the loss in a sense that I am allowing it, but on my terms. In here, however, the evaluation of such scenarios are not easy, because I played rook c to d8, which is considered as an inaccuracy, let's say, not a precise way to give the pawn away. What I should have done perhaps is to think more about the pawn structures that will arise from the specific variations, because I was relying too much on the calculations, too little on the, let's say, longer horizon. Because if I have taken here and here and now pushed bishop c7 back to attack the rook, the idea of this scenario would be to kick away the rook, let's say to that square, so that I can take on d5 now when the pawns are doubled. So if I furthermore, let's say, solidify the diagonal, and if my opponent will take like this, I might go with either that move, or even simply rook d8, and I'm kind of alright, because I have 3 against 2 in here, not a big deal, I will not use it ever, and my opponent have 2 more passed pawns, but they are doubled, and they are on the d file, kind of easily blocked by me. So in here, bishop d4 might have done more damage, because it's also eyeing on the a7 pawn, and I believe that might have been the moment when I stopped the calculation, because I only saw bishop d6 move as an idea, so that, if I play here, but rook a4 kind of kills my dream, and I did not estimate correctly bishop b6 idea. I felt like still rook endgame like this should have been lost. Apparently I have some drawing chances. It still would be hard to do it, and therefore at this very point it's hard to go for such, let's say, continuation. Nevertheless, objectively speaking, and this was the way to go, after rook c to d8, what happens is my opponent will be delaying taking off either of the pawns, because after bishop e6, f6, this pawn cannot be taken. After rook e6, I wanted to play some d3, trying to open up the attack, and the pawn is pinned to the king. Maybe I'm having some counterplay, but my opponent played like grandmaster move king g2. Firstly, going away from the all pins, and then focusing on my weaknesses. And those are such long-term ones that I will not ever be able to hold on to them. And pawn structure-wise, still I will be having the problems with other pawns. So if I lose that one, it does not make this one any stronger, and the other way around too. And this pawn is also not the best, so I'm lacking the targets to create counterplay. I'm lacking the defense of my weaknesses. I'm lacking the activity and obviously all the outposts for my pieces for the future. So as I like to describe it, this is simply a slow death to me. If I would have gone for this rook endgame, maybe then I would not have died. I don't know. Anyway, in here already, the position is not that easy to navigate. On top of that, I really gave my best in the middle game, even though it did not look like it. And I have used a lot of time, so my moves were not always good ones, because I kind of simply missed here and there one idea or two. But yeah, let's continue. I played d3 anyway, even though the king ran away. He played f4, therefore, because the king was alright, so he created this pawn chain of his. I played king f7, trying to solidify the pawn. King f3, not rushing anything, yet another grandmaster treat, They know that they don't have to rush when they don't have to rush. When they do, they know they do, right? In here it's obviously easy, a slow position, and he is just preparing all his pieces into the final, let's say, blow. So I try to coordinate, he does that too, but I have limited space, and even if and even when I suggest some trade, he does not care. He just pushes the pawns. He knows that not only do I have plenty of weaknesses, he also have one more strength, which is the majority on the queen side. You know, pushing a little pawn here, there, and you know, and finally after rook d7, rook c6, due to this problem and pressure, I had to exchange rooks pieces overall yet another time on his terms with my move. He does not waste any tempos of that. He is also making his bishop better. So yeah, I don't know what can I tell you guys. It seems like I'm only, you know, in the negative state today, and I'm explaining things like I am playing the worst game ever, nothing is happening, complaining all the time. But like, what can you do? What can you do when you play such a good player, playing such a good game, strategic one in which you got clearly outplayed? Like, I don't know. So yeah, in the time travel, with nearly 10 more moves to go until time control, I just started playing more and more inaccuracies. I, you know, activated my bishop, the pawn went away, and that's that. I activated the other one, so he just simply protected it. And here already I just played some random g5 move trying to achieve I don't know what, like undermine his pawn chain, I guess, and try to do some checks like that. But now he protected that pawn with the king and that one with the bishop, so I only gave the pawn away. I'm not that sure why or what for. And therefore after few more moves, which was bishop h4, a4, rook d5, check, I went back, he took my pawn. Even if and even when I took back, he played king d4, I resigned. I mean, he gave me that look like, are you really playing this out? Continue to play this against me, the grandmaster? You know, and I said, okay, he has some right to give me that look, right? Because not only am I pawn down, because materially speaking, it's not that bad, but listen, like those two connected passers, I mean, it's matter of time. 7 moves until the queen will be there or something. Like, yeah, no point in wasting either my time or his time. So this is how the game concluded. I mean, I cannot tell you enough how frustrated, or maybe not frustrated I was, but kind of unhappy. Let's just put it mildly, because yes, I knew that it's highly improbable that I will be indeed really going for a win with the black pieces against the Grandmaster for the FIDE Master title, but at least I hoped to give better fight, if that makes sense. Because like, what did I even learn from such a loss? That I need to do something against knight f3 on the first move? Maybe I actually learned my lesson for the future tournaments, and you will know it when you will see the analysis of them. But yeah, I guess if you lose against such a guy, it would be much better to have at least few lessons to take away. So yeah, lessons wise, I was not happy because I could have been putting more effort into all of this. Results wise, obviously I am unhappy. I don't have to emphasize on that. And unfortunately, with the not a great humor, I went into the 2026 calendar year, because I've told you this game was played out of on New Year's Eve, and then after 2 days break on New Year's Eve, we were playing on the 2nd of January 2 more games to come, and yeah, we'll see how did they go in a few days, right? So thank you all for watching this analysis. If you want to give the like to cheer me up, I will be happily taking it, obviously. If not, I understand that the game was not the best. I will leave you here. Thank you all for watching. We'll see each other tomorrow. As of that game, unfortunately, this is it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.